Today I find myself traveling across many strange planets, fighting to save my galaxy from a mysterious space plague. This is Cubic Odyssey, a planet and space exploration survival game that looks a lot like Minecraft. I'll be venturing to many different star systems, exploring alien planets, slaying angry pirates, building a fortress among the stars, and eventually freeing this cubic kingdom of the Red Darkness. Or at least that was the plan. You see, something disastrous had happened to my ship and I ended up crash landing on a strange alien planet. It was day one and I was quickly awakened by my trusty robotic sidekick, and I hopped out of my burning spaceship to get a good look around. I was sent by the Queen to fight against the Red Darkness outbreak, but things were off to a rough start. I soon realized I could get equipment for my robot companion, like this basic mining tool. I harvested up these leaves from this tree, to which QB rewarded me with my very first weapon. Does this work? While I waited for QB to recover, I went over to my spaceship and discovered I could gather up some tasty minerals like aluminum. What is that? Iron? Oh, all right, we're back. Okay. I grabbed the crafting bench from QB and found a place to set up in these ruins. From there, I crafted some bandages to patch myself up, put down this wooden chest, made a backpack, and dug up some dirt and stones to make a refinery. Just like that, the humble beginnings of a base was born. Here you go, buddy. There you go. My next mission was to get some sand, but while I was out there, I discovered something terrifying. What's this? This just looks like a bad idea. It was actually only half a bad idea. I had just discovered one of many underground caverns, and as dark and creepy as it was, the inner Loot Goblin in me couldn't exactly resist going in further into the abyss. You see, there were all sorts of rare ore down here, stuff that I couldn't exactly find up at the surface. I have a bad feeling about this. I explored a bit more, even finding this silicon deposit, but it quickly became clear that this cavern was way bigger than I had anticipated. While the loot was good down here, I soon had a realization. I kind of want to just go back now. As much as I want to leave, the cave had other ideas. In fact, even as I was trying to retrace my steps, the cavern passageways start to look less and less familiar, even going down deeper. Eventually, I gave up and began the lengthy process of digging my way out, but something was happening at the surface. Something was happening to my base. Great, great. While I was able to eventually carve my way out of the earth, as I got closer to my base, I realized I had some unwelcome guests. Pirates? Hey, get off my property! Who the heck is this guy? This was just the beginning of my feud with the numerous pirate gangs in the galaxy. Luckily, it looked like the only thing they really messed with was my refinery, which I was able to repair without much issue. Anyways, if I want to survive out here and get off this planet, I knew I had to gather up some more materials. And despite some hiccups, I was able to eventually upgrade my crafting bench, upgrade it to a nicer extractor, got an ore scanner for QB, and even came across this meteor crash site. Oh, radium. After slurping up the radium I found here, I explored a little more and found this broken down vehicle. Wiring. Oh, if I repair it. Oh, this looks like some kind of speeder or something. I continued down further and eventually stumbled across this base. It was way nicer than what I was able to put together, and I was pleased to meet another fellow cube man, though it would seem he was a man of few words. What? That can't be a real language. On the plus side, I realized that the scanner I made for QB accurately pinpointed and highlighted in pink whatever ore I was looking for. Oh, that's gold right there. Nice. With QB helping me, I spent the night digging up different types of ores, and by morning, I had just enough to bring that busted speeder back to life. All right, we did it. Oh, whoa, what the? Hey, buddy, can I shoot you? Oh, I can. He's not really fighting back. Huh. I kind of feel bad now. Was he trying to just be a friend? At base, I had collected enough materials to put together a jetpack. How do I fly? Oh! Don't think that went very high. Flight time 1 second? Okay, to be fair, the jetpack wasn't exactly top of the line stuff, but even so, it should make traversing the caverns a bit easier. Oh! Speaking of caverns, I spent a bit more time down here to continue collecting resources, making sure not to wander too deep this time. There's a lot of copper. There is a lot of copper. Venturing down in the cavern did prove to be worth it because I was able to afford this tier 1 suit, a piece of equipment that gave me some shields, which should help me survive a bit more out here. By the morning of day 4, I took a look at my map again, and to my surprise, I saw there was actually a city on this planet. If there was anyone who could help me repair my ship to get me off planet, they'd be there. However, as I set out on my speeder towards the snowy mountain, something peculiar caught my attention, and there was a lot more to it than meets the eye. That was this. Oh, there's a lot of pirates. Oh! No, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Holy cow. What is this? I didn't realize it then, but I had stumbled across an ancient mining tunnel, a place full of valuable resources. And since the pirates weren't here anymore, I figured someone had to make use of the ore, so, I did. Ancient hull block. Should we be taking these? Honestly, I probably spent a little too much time stuffing my pockets, but I eventually was able to pry myself out of there. Eventually, I got to the city, but it looked like there was some trouble afoot. Oh, 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 they have like turrets. Yeah, it turned out this place was fully equipped to deal with just about anything this planet could throw at it. In fact, I learned this city had it all. Travel portals, a weapon shop, a speeder dealer, and even various paid quests I could take on. I also met the city leader, Ragnhild, but before I could speak to them... Why is it so dramatic? That can't be good. It, in fact, wasn't good. Mysterious red monsters attacked the city, and despite what my aim would suggest, I did my best to help out. Oh my god. What's that red stuff? Oh, they got it. Luckily, the townsfolk were not as helpless as I was. However, Ragnhild didn't really believe in the red darkness until I explained to them what was going on with the queen. Either way, they didn't want to keep dealing with those red creatures and needed me to help shut down the mysterious portal. Making my way over, I saw that the very ground had become corrupted. However, this was nothing compared to the horrors that awaited. Ooh, what? Oh my god. Wherever the red darkness had come from, well, I had found it. QB took notice of the ancient blocks that were able to resist the darkness and said I need to block off those red beams from hitting the portal in order to make it back. It does not look good out here. Using my extractor, I was able to pick up some ancient blocks and build these pillars to protect the portal from not just one, but both red beams of light. My character seemed to level up from this experience, but I myself didn't waste any time celebrating and got out of there. Yep. Don't worry about it, guys. I got it. There we go. I expect a hero's welcome. Maybe some money, perhaps? Yeah, unfortunately, I got neither a glorious parade nor any money from Ragnhild, which, to be honest, I probably should have set my rates before hopping into what looked like the metaphorical cubic underworld. Either way, Ragnhild did give me some tidbits. There was a temple on a neighboring planet, Bardwell 2, which possibly had more information on how to beat the red darkness. Ragnhild mentioned a merchant there where I could buy the parts I needed to repair my ship, but looking at how I just done a ton of work for free, I wasn't exactly in a spending mood. Back at base, I saw I had picked up a bunch of mysterious dark items, though honestly it didn't look like any of it would help repair my ship. Speaking of the ship, I took a quick look at what it needed to get operational and... So I need some wiring. Oh, I could... This is totally doable. After some crafting and assembling of all the needed components... There we go, micro repair. pilot bark. Oh, at last, my ship was restored to her former glory, which wasn't much. Either way, I was hyped because this was my ticket off this planet. I did a quick inspection around the inside and hopped into the cockpit seat. Oh. Take off to space. Okay, I should probably heal, but this is way too exciting, so we're just gonna do this. No way. Oh, okay. Got it. Everything is a square. There was obviously a lot to do out here in this square star system, from exploring asteroid fields or visiting space stations, but I had my eyes set on touching down at the next planet over. You see, this was the Bardwell system, and while the planet Bardwell 1 was where I started my journey, I knew I had to get out to Bardwell 2 for more answers. Cruise charging? What does that do? Oh. While I was figuring out the controls to my ship, I made my way over to Bardwell 2. Breaking through the atmosphere, I could see this was a beautiful planet. Sunny, relatively clear skies with lush greenery and beautiful blue lakes. More importantly though was the light temple, and after a quick look at my map, I headed on over. Once I got there, it was clear the temple wasn't exactly operational. You see, the temple itself had lost power, and it was up to me to realign these laser beams so they hit the central core to turn it back on. I still don't understand why the ancients, in their infinite wisdom, decided to build a power emitter so far away from the actual temple itself. After clearing these tree branches, I hopped back into my ship and flew over to the second laser. Here. Okay, we just gotta rotate. Yep, nope. There we go. And finally, made a trip out to the final laser. What is this doing down here? I repositioned the last emitter, and at last, the temple was finally back online. I stepped into its mysterious halls, unsure of what secrets or dangers laid within, though my mission log instructed me to speak to a hologram. What hologram? Oh. This was the Guardian, and he was quite acquainted with the Red Darkness. Apparently, this temple was one of the many nodes around the galaxy designed to keep the Red Darkness at bay, and powering on the temple with laser beams wasn't enough. It required an additional ancient key to unlock its true power. Where was this almighty key, you may ask? Well, apparently it's located in run-down temples like this one, which, for the sake of clarification, are not the same as the Light Temple. However, there was one issue. You see, these smaller shrines had become infested with pirates that had long since taken over and moved in. But before I took on the pirates, I did a quick pit stop at this nearby city. What's up, guys? Come in peace. The city was a lot like the previous one back on Bardwell 1. It had various NPCs like this creature scientist, some quests, a trade terminal, even a travel portal. However, there wasn't much else here for me at this point, and I didn't want to keep those pirates waiting, so I made my way over to the temple site. Oh, there's a lot of you guys. Uh-oh. Despite my best efforts at kiting the katana pirates, things were quickly turning south. And he has a shield. Okay. Oh my god. Interact. Oh. Yeah, it was probably time for a much needed weapon upgrade. Back in town, I picked up this fancy sniper rifle and commenced the cheesy strat of sitting on my ship and sniping the pirates from a safe distance. There we go. Wait. With that, I headed into the temple, secured the ancient key, and flew back to the Light Temple. I plugged the key into the shiny blue core thing near the top of the pyramid, and to my great relief, the temple was finally activated. But my celebrations were cut short when... That's not gonna hit us, is it? Those look a little red. A little too red. While I had hoped to get my bearings at the Light Temple, it would look like the Red Darkness had caught up to me. Luckily, the Guardian had a solution. An ancient tool that wielded the power to cleanse the Red Darkness. Gather the materials needed to craft a purity gun? A purity gun? I was just happy to get my marksman rifle, but wow, this looks crazy. Quartz ingot, gold ingot, tin ingot. Do I set up base here? Is that what this is? Also, as an aside, I took a quick peek at the galaxy map and... oh my god. There's a lot of places to go. I tried not to dwell on how massive this whole adventure was shaping up to be. After stuffing down my anxiety, I knew it was one thing at a time, and first on the list, setting up a base here. By the next morning, I took some time to fly around in my ship to find the perfect base spot. If I was going to defeat the Red Darkness and save the Queen, I'll need a strong foundation. I picked out this mountain nearby the Light Temple. After taking in the magnificent view of the morning sunrise, I got to work. Alright, so instead of actually building a base, I'm just gonna carve one out of the mountain. There was something weirdly therapeutic about digging through stone and dirt, and before long, I made a nice little mountainside hole, completely secure from any dangers that lurked outside. Or so I thought. The pirates seemed pretty upset that I had taken out their comrades and actually took the hike up to my mountain to find me. What was he doing all the way up here? Oh my gosh. Pirate drama aside, the good news was that my mountain base was coming along quite nicely. I set up this crafting bench, a couple of these wooden doors at the entrance, as well as a few storage chests. I did some exploring and found at the base of the mountain there was a big opening leading into an underground cavern full of ores, a lot like the one I had fallen into back at the first planet. I was even finding minerals I hadn't seen before, like titanium. Oh. Yeah, that's taking a bit longer than it usually does. I might need a better extractor thing. I was sitting on top of a gold mine, both literally and figuratively, and my base was quickly expanding. I put down way more stores than I needed and also upgraded my refineries. I also took some tree saplings and planted them at the top of the mountain, which, spoiler alert, will have some unforeseen consequences within the next few days. Oh, and thanks to all the titanium I found, I upgraded my wooden doors to these titanium doors, or at least that's what they called them, though honestly, looking at it, it looks to be mostly glass. Gold door? What the heck? It rains? It rains out here? It is so cozy. It's so cozy. It was indeed very cozy. Since I'm a pack rat loot goblin, I filled my base with storage crates, so I ended up having to carve out a secondary floor to make room for more appliances. Alright, also, I just want to admit it and come clean to you guys, but let's just say I may have went full goblin mode with the mining. There was something really addicting about the process, and using QB's targeted ore scanner in combination with my personal general purpose scanner to find the clusters, I was pulling in resources faster than ever. Yep, quartz is one of those things I'm gonna need. Oh yeah, and my fears about getting lost in the caverns, no longer an issue. With my ship fully functional, I could just teleport directly to it instead of having to manually dig my way out. Good thing too, because the pirates weren't exactly letting up. Oh, I was wondering why my base looked a little bit different. Yeah, all those trees I planted? Yep, they've grown. Honestly, having this many trees turned out to be a good thing because it gave me a steady supply of wood that I could make into coal to feed the insatiable refineries that were, by now, producing tons and tons of ingots. Thanks to my totally under control mining addiction, I actually had collected just about everything I needed for the purifier gun. And so, a quick ride over to the temple later, I went over to the crafting console inside and... an ancient tool, which can be used to remove the red darkness from the world. Great. Oh, there's a second level up? Okay, well that's fine. I didn't want that anyways. The Guardian explained that with the purifier gun, I could not only cleanse infected cubes of the red darkness, but also harvest it as dark dust. What would I use the dark dust for? Well, the Guardian was a bit vague, but told me to bring some to him so he could show me. Luckily for me, there was a nearby red darkness meteor shower, so I went over in my speeder to investigate. Gathered 90 dark dust. So this definitely wasn't as satisfying as mining. It was actually very time consuming and a little bit tedious. When the queen said I would be battling the red darkness, I didn't imagine doing it one cube at a time. Oh, we got a mess in aisle 5. Yeah, I was starting to feel less like a galactic hero and more like a galactic janitor. Honestly, I may have been fine with that, but it didn't help when these red demon spiders would try to lunge at me while I was cleaning out the infected cubes. 100 dark dust later, and I was back at the Light Temple. The Guardian let me in on his little secret. The light shards were made out of the very thing it's meant to destroy, the red darkness. It turned out that by converting dark dust into dark shards, then mixing that with a little bit of polonium, you get light shards. Let's see. Okay. Craft 1 light shard. Just as I completed one task, another presented itself. Next up, I was supposed to go to Bardwell 3. The Guardian explained that if we wanted any hope of cleansing the galaxy, the light shards that I crafted was the key. I hurried back to base and started to prepare for my trip to the new planet. That is until... No way. He would do that? Very annoying. If you thought that was the end of it with the pirates, well, it wasn't. The next day, I went out to explore a signal that I've been seeing on the map and ran into what looked like a pretty friendly town. What in the world is this? Oh, another town. Oh. I had stumbled across a pirate outpost. I wasn't sure what to expect, but given the amount of harassment I've received over the last few days from these guys, I was happy to return the favor. There's so many. While it started off as a revenge raid, it turned out that there was actually a bit more here than grouchy pirates. Oh, did I do it? Oh, nice. It became a town? The pirate outpost was no more, and in its place, a bustling new city filled with vendors and quest givers. Needless to say, I was a bit confused. Wait. Okay, these were bad guys here before. I don't even know anymore, honestly. Hopping into the town portal, I made it back to base to continue my preparations for my big trip out to Bardwell 3. I spent a good chunk of the day trimming down my overgrown trees, as well as taking another deep dive into the underground to scratch my newly acquired mining addiction. Fast forward like an hour into the future. Okay, to be fair, going down there and spending hours mining was actually productive. I discovered a bunch of minerals I hadn't seen before, like diamonds. Wow, it's finding all sorts of stuff down here. There was another reason why I was mining so much. I had picked up a quest that needed a whopping 50 titanium ore from a guy at that ex-pirate town that I had liberated earlier. I don't know if that was worth it, but... Okay, we made money. I almost would rather have kept the titanium ore, but whatever. Despite having some slight regrets during the quest, I used whatever ores I had left to upgrade my backpack, scanner, jetpack, and my suit all to tier 3. It was day 12 by now, my preparations were complete, and it was time to finally head out to Bardwell 3. To infinity and beyond! Once again, I was drifting through space. I had really grown to love Bardwell 1 and 2, which were really beautiful, resource-filled planets. So I was excited to see what amazing, lush landscape the planet Bardwell 3 had in store for me. Or so I thought. Is it supposed to be that red? Use a light strike to clear darkness core. Oh my god. Dude, this place is just bad news. Bad news indeed. While the other planets seem to have a few spots of red darkness, Bardwell 3 had the worst infestation I've seen yet. And to make matters worse, there was this massive red darkness pimple mound that began launching artillery in my direction, forcing me to move my ship before it was reduced to scrap. Wow, this place sucks. I parked a ways away, but ended up going back to the red darkness mound to try to take out those turrets using my sniper rifle, but unfortunately... Okay, yeah. Alright, secondary plan. Let's check out, let's just visit around. We don't have to be here. I eventually found what was called an ancient weapon nearby. However, once I got to the console, I saw that the planet still had too much red darkness for the machine to work. This place just gives me the heebie-jeebies, man. Oh my god. Oh my god. I just fell. If you were wondering how things were going in regards to the Red Darkness pimple, progress was being made. You see, I realized the Darkness Purifier had a light nuke firing mode. The bad news? Well, besides the fact that I still had no idea what I was doing, the nuke had a short, limited range for the lock-on. You know what? Better idea. We're gonna go underneath. One of my better ideas yet. I was going to hit the Red Darkness from where it least expected it, below. By going underground, the turret shouldn't be able to lock onto me, and if I'm careful, I should be able to get close enough to initiate the tactical light nuke by tunneling until I was basically inside the mound itself. Here we go, here we go. Here we go. Calling a light strike. From here. Is it working? Nice. I didn't see what happened. The light strike had worked, and what remained of the Red Darkness mound was this shiny darkness core fragment as well as some dark matter. Mission accomplished. This place still looks awful, but I think it's gonna recover eventually. Or will it? Okay, I may have been a little off base on that, because to truly cleanse this planet, I had to get back to the ancient weapon, and this time I was able to activate the tower, and after a little bit of waiting... Yay, we did it! It's purified. It looks... better, I guess? There was also this fancy marble statue of me that was created, and the ego stroke was much welcomed. I claimed the reward of 1,000 qubits and realized I wasn't quite done with things out here in Bardwell 3. Wait, oh, I see it. Is this a pirate town? This looks like a pirate town. By now, I was somewhat of an expert with dealing with pirate towns, and so I got to work sniping down turrets and spraying down some of the grouchy inhabitants. I figured a bustling new friendly city, not run by criminals, was just what this desolate planet needed. Who did it? Welcome, citizens. With the town converted, I did a little adventuring and stumbled across an abandoned ancient mineshaft. And despite the initial hurdles of clearing out the Red Darkness infestation and getting rid of some pirates, it turned out Bardwell 3 may have been worth visiting after all. Wow, this is the freaking gold mine out here. While it wasn't exactly a literal gold mine, I was practically swimming in super rare tier 4 ores as the walls were lined with polonium, radium, and cobalt. I thought I had struck Bardwell 3's jackpot. Or did I? Remember the cave system filled with red darkness? Well, since I had purified the planet, that area was now explorable, and me, being the curious little candy I am, decided to investigate. It's probably fine, right? Oh god. Oh, this goes all the way to the bottom. Oh, wow. I had stumbled across the biggest underground cavern system I've seen yet. Unlike the previous planets where the caves were pretty tight, this one looked like an open space was carved out for a massive underground city, and more of the tier 4 ores were found down here. Eventually I found myself at the lowest level of the planet's depths, the lava zone. Here I came across tons of rare tier 5 minerals, sapphires and diamonds just to name a couple. This was the true prize of Bardwell 3. I probably stayed down here longer than I should have. My inner loot goblin was already fantasizing about setting up a mining outpost out here. Well, I kind of want to leave, not because there isn't enough, but because there's just too much. This planet isn't good for me. This planet is so not good for me. Just be down here forever. I was a bit reluctant to leave, but I knew a trip back to Bardwell 2 was in order. After all, the Guardian was waiting for me in the temple there. According to the Guardian, his people once battled the Red Darkness too, scattering light temples across the galaxy to keep it at bay. But like most technology, the system eventually fell apart, and now it was up to me to reactivate them. How would I travel beyond my galaxy, you may ask? Well, by crafting warp cells, a power source capable of allowing my ship to warp to other systems. I crafted one right away, and the Guardian even threw in a couple extras to help me get started. While I thought this was a nice gesture, I was quickly enlightened to the massive undertaking this really would be. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of work. I was starting to wonder what all the other knights were doing. After all, it seemed like I was the only one doing anything and getting anywhere. I continue to do some maintenance tasks at my base, like refining these ores into ingots and crafting up for more gear cells to power my equipment. I also spent some time studying where I should go for my first intergalactic warp. There weren't any temple systems just one warp away, so I started with this one called Dirk. Better buckle up. Oh. One space noodle later, and I had arrived. Like I said earlier, this system didn't have a temple per se, but I still felt like it was worth checking out given that it had a slightly higher technology rating than Bardwell, and some of the planets had glowing ores. I decided to head on over to Dirk 5 to see what sort of slightly more advanced technology awaited me there. While initially the planet seemed okay from space, once I broke through the atmosphere, I quickly realized that it was a lot like Bardwell 3. But thankfully for the residents of Dirk 5, I happen to be somewhat of a red darkness expert by this point. I used the same underground tunneling strategy from earlier. Shoot that, please. With this area cleansed, I gave myself a celebratory pat on the back. Well, that is until I found the second hotspot on this planet. Oh, this thing. Oh, that thing is kind of huge. Yeah, we're gonna need a bigger gun. Man, I need more light shards. Oh, that's not good. I don't know if there's much to do here. Hold on. Wow, that thing is grotesque. Yeah, this is the wrong planet. Sorry. Hey, my bad. I think I'm just lost. You guys can have this place. I really should have known to bring way more light shards. I returned to Bardwell 2 to get more, and I discovered the Bardwell Systems space station I had somehow missed the first time. It was perfect. Vendors, ship dealers, and best of all, tech traders. I grabbed some of the circuit boards and motherboards, key parts I couldn't craft but would need for higher tier gear later. Yes, buying all of them. Eventually I made my way back to Bardwell 2. At base, I put on a fresh batch of ores to refine, made a planet portal, which I couldn't use yet, and spent a while farming up this red darkness area that I had found. It took so long, in fact, that by the time I headed back to the temple, it was night again. Alright. Light shard, dark shard. Yeah, we're gonna keep making these. With a fresh batch of light shards acquired, I assumed this would be more than enough to hold me over for a while. Oh, and for those who are wondering, yes, I eventually figured out how to warp to a system with a light temple. It required a couple of more jumps than expected, and so a space spaghetti later, and I finally landed in the Breer system, which, unlike Dirk, actually had a light temple this time. There was, however, bad news. If the icon was any indication of how things were going down there, I was in for a rough ride. Breer 2 looks like a hot mess. Alright, let's see here. Planet's protected by a darkness field. We cannot land. Okay, sure. Before I could investigate further, a group of space pirates decided to exact their long overdue revenge, and the limits of my scout were starting to show. Oh, I don't do any damage. Okay, I'm like barely getting through his shields. Okay, yeah, I only have two health bars. Okay, we gotta leave. We gotta leave. Okay. I made a narrow escape with my scout just barely holding it together. A much needed upgrade was in order. If I wanted any chance of battling against pirates in space, I needed a better ship. And then I remembered something. Back at the space station, there were sometimes vendors with different ships for sale. And honestly, I remember a lot of these ships looking way beefier than my current one. The issue? Camo Stellar Jet. Oh, that's really expensive. That's Titan class. $500,000. Probably can't afford that anytime soon, so it's like, keep looking. So I keep looking, I guess. Luckily for me, buying a ship wasn't the only way to acquire one. The galaxy was full of abandoned wrecks, and with a bit of love and duct tape, they were good as new. Sure enough, after a ton of exploring in the Bardwell system... Wait... What is this? This does not look bad. Ultraviolet Intruder. This is an Interceptor class. Okay, this looks pretty good. Now, actually, I didn't have the materials for the repairs on me, and I actually had to run back to base to grab them, but 15 short minutes later, and the Ultraviolet Intruder was finally mine. The immediate upgrade I noticed wasn't actually in the firepower, but rather the interior space. It turned out I could load it up with things like chests and crafting benches, creating a mobile mini base right inside the ship itself. God, if my ship blows up, I am in some deep trouble. I also spent the next day doing various upgrades to the ship, like beefing up the cannons and toughening up the shields. You may also be wondering, Candy, why do you have a 12-pack of M80 class fireworks? Well, I'm glad you asked, because these bad boys are actually a set of Phoenix missiles. I wasn't quite sure what they were good for, but I had a feeling they'd come in handy. A short return trip to the Breer system later, and I was ready for round 2. A bit of context regarding the darkness shielded planet, by the way. I came to see that there were 2 red darkness sources that were powering the shield, and if I wanted to get into the planet, I'd need to break those down first. As I approached the first one... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Well, I destroyed it. I destroyed it, but... Okay, looks like I just one-shot it with that Phoenix missile, which is kind of nuts. Also, the field test against the pirates was a success. The upgraded ship cannons were hitting for a juicy 99 per shot, definitely a welcome boost from my scout. But the real MVP? The Phoenix missiles. Earlier, I accidentally let one fly and one-shotted the darkness source before getting a good look at it. I ended up just using my lasers on the second one, which took a little longer. Okay, it took a lot longer. Okay, now we're in. This time, with the shield gone, getting through the planet's atmosphere was actually pretty straightforward. Breer 2 was loaded with a variety of minerals, and I was excited to possibly set up a mining outpost here. That is until... It's not as bad as, well, actually as I get closer, yeah, oof, you guys got a severe infestation here. I quickly got to work. I flew over the light temple, though I saw it was unpowered because, lo and behold, the light towers, we'll call them power towers, were misaligned. Taking the beam emitters and fixing them wasn't actually that difficult, and required just moving them back to their proper positions or clearing out some rocks that were blocking the beam. After making sure all 4 power beams were pointed at the temple, I climbed to the very top and plugged in this ancient key. The key, thank God I had one. Why so dramatic? The Guardian told me to check out a distress signal in the Great system, but that would have to wait for now. You see, Breer 2 seemed like it also had somewhat of a red darkness giga spider infestation, and I couldn't leave the planet looking like this. I had made my way over to this one, and this time I came prepared. Call into the airstrike. 10 seconds later, and the spider was no more. All that remained was what looked like its beating heart, which, as messed up as it sounds, I quickly destroyed with my ship's cannons. There were more Giga Spiders on the planet like this one that was seemingly minding its own business, but I quickly took care of it the same way as I did the first, and blasted its remains until it stopped moving. As my old karate teacher would say, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. After clearing out as many red darkness sources as I could, I flew over to the ancient weapon. The planet was finally ready to be purified. Nice. Wow, it actually looks really pretty. And I get my own special statue again. Remember the planet portal I put down back at base? Well, by now I had enough resources for a second one, and I decided to head over to the light temple here and dig out a cave to put down the extra portal I was carrying. This allowed me to instantly fast travel between Breer 2 and Bardwell 2, even though they weren't in the same system. Though, for whatever reason, the portal kept spitting me out way above my base instead of inside of it. Anyways, besides the giant darkness spiders, there was something else even more interesting that I discovered on Breer 2. Yeah, those don't look like regular pirates. Yeah, these guys are way tankier. Sure, it looked like your average pirate outpost, but the moment I saw traces of red darkness and realized the enemies were way too tanky for their own good, I knew something was off. In fact, sniping them to death was such a slow process that I had to resort to bring out the big guns and try to blast them with my ship's cannons, which was way harder than it looked. 10 damage. Cool. Yeah, that's fine. This was when I had the realization that despite my progression in mining, crafting, cleansing planets, exploring different systems, and shipbuilding, I never looked into upgrading my weapons beyond the basic tier. In fact, it was so painfully obvious that I was barely doing any damage to these guys, I was half wondering how I survived this far to begin with. After a very long time blasting them with my ship cannons, alright, I killed all the bad guys. come on. I spent so much time. To my great dismay, this outpost couldn't be converted into a friendly town, so spending all that time carefully picking off the corrupted pirates seemed like a complete waste. Or was it? It turned out that there was a ton of interesting corrupted weapons and armor, stuff I hadn't ever seen before. I gathered them up and flew them over to the Light Temple. I realized that I could purify them using light shards to get really high tiered weapons like this tier 6 assault rifle, a welcome upgrade over my tier 1 guns. I then purified this armor, which yielded a sparkly tier 7 armor that boosted my shields from 4 to 10. There were also these really fancy shiny regalia weapons that I couldn't make yet, but we'll come back to those later. The next day, I came across another corrupted city. Except this time, things were a bit different. With the tier 6 assault rifle, I was absolutely tearing through the corrupted enemies now. A dark chest. A warp cell. These are all really good. Wow. Wow. I feel like we found the mother lode. Like, as we're exploring, it's just... Oh. I'll try to stack as much stuff as I can. Yeah, I can't even carry all this stuff back. Getting this gear was a critical point in my story because with better firepower came better loot. It didn't take me long to feel like I was just drowning in high tier materials and I wasn't sure what to do with it all. I spent the next few days collecting more dark dust from that corrupted town for more light shards. I also purified more gear in hopes of selling them for extra cash, though to my great disappointment, no one, even the vendors at the space stations, seemed interested in buying. And since I'm a bit of a hoarder loot goblin, I also spent a day or 3 mining for ores just to make sure I had enough resources for equipment, upgrades, and of course, more Phoenix missiles. Also, by now I remembered I had an important sounding mission to check out that distress signal in the Gray system about 4 warps away. As I passed through each system, I'll admit I was very tempted to touch down and explore at least one planet in every stop. However, one detour would have turned into a full-blown mining marathon, and I don't think whoever sent that distress signal at Grace would appreciate any more delays. Regardless, after about 4 warps, I had arrived at the Grace system. Let's go check this out. The mission was to investigate Grace 2, which, surprise surprise, was shielded by a couple of darkness sources. I cleared out the pirates guarding the first one and eventually blasted it to death with my lasers. And of course, rinse and repeat for the second one. Investigate the other night signal. This doesn't look too bad, actually. Whoa. Wow, this is his base? I never really felt self-conscious about how my base looked, until I saw how the other knights were living. As I looked around, I realized something was off though. There were no signs of the other knights. Apparently, he had been captured by some nearby pirates, and it was up to me, the mole man, to save him. On the way to the pirate base, which wasn't too far off, I noticed Grace 2 had some really crazy geography. While it would look pretty flat at the start, there are actually really massive mountains that also have the deepest valleys out of any planet I've seen so far. The pirate base was tucked into one of these canyons, and I'm pretty sure it was just built right above the lava layer, which was definitely a choice. What's up, boys? Whoa. Hey, buddy. I'll get you out in just 1 second. Oh, there's some cool stuff too. I cleared out the rest of the pirates, which converted the outpost to a happy town and linked up with the knights. You're welcome. No problem. Alright, see you at the base. Scaling these sheer 90-degree angle cliffs wasn't a huge deal for my speeder, and a quick trip later, I was back at the knight's base. His name was Helioctus, and like me, he was sent out to fight against the Red Darkness. Apparently, while he hasn't been making any progress with cleansing the planets, Helioctus has been keeping busy with research and found a way to make the ancient cleansing weapon mobile. He had no idea about the Guardian, but figured it'd be a good idea to meet up there in Bardwell too. And last but not least, he gave me his ship. Wait, I got his new ship? Oh my god, oh, this is a scout class. Okay, well, not that exciting. I think mine's better. Grace 2 still had an infestation problem, so I headed over to this red darkness source, and one strike later, I then made my way over to this ancient weapon, which was conveniently located in the town I was just at. There you go. Should be good. Yep. But I wasn't ready to leave just yet. Grace 2 had just what I needed to progress to the next technological level. I started finding materials that would usually take forever to mine or make, just hanging out in chests. Just randomly getting amazing stuff. I spent the next couple of days mining, collecting, and exploring as much as I could of this planet. The chest here alone had everything. Rare ores, gear, and components 2 tiers above anything I could craft myself. Yeah, forget mining. You could just do this. Oh, jetpack tier 5. Look. Matter container. What? This is very useful. I should probably toss something for that. A few days and a full inventory later, I forced myself to leave and head back to my base on Bardwell 2. Grace 2 had blessed me with a ton of amazing loot, like some of these shining ingots, but there was one problem. Okay, I need to find a system that can accept all this, because it's starting to become too much. During my travels, I had also found some extra mining tools, which had some nice mods on them. I quickly pulled them off and installed them into the tier 6 extractor that I was using. Oh, he made another base. Wow, his bases all look really nice. My base? I'm in that tree mountain thing. I felt like if Helioctus spent half the effort in building beautiful bases as he did actually fighting the Red Darkness, we might have rescued the Queen already. He told me he figured out the designs for a mobile ancient weapon. However, it needed some exotic materials. Interact with the crafting module. Oh, geez. Okay. All right. I don't have those. All right. Gonna pause for a second and just be honest with you guys. As great as my loot haul from Grace 2 was, it still wasn't enough to cover what I needed for the mobile weapon. The ingredient list turned out to be way more complicated than I expected. Take matter cells, for example. To make those, I first needed to make matter containers, which require superconductors, glass sheets, and most annoyingly, gem plates. And to craft those, I needed one of each gem type. And not just one set, I needed multiples of everything. Same goes for glowing ingots. I had picked up a few during my travels, but nowhere near the amount I needed for the full build. If I want to build this thing, I'd have to head back out into the galaxy and start hunting down the rest of the materials. There was one growing issue that I had to figure out. Superconductors and microprocessors were critical but expensive components for crafting items that I would need to make the mobile ancient weapon, and let's just say, for being the savior of the galaxy, I was pretty broke. Very broke. To get the cash I needed, I decided to find a high-tech system that will finally buy all of the high-tier gear that I've been hoarding. Luckily, I found a system called Darrell with a maxed out tech rating. It was a little far out from Bardwell, so a few jumps later, and... Darrell, finally! One last warp noodle. Oh, it's white! Let's see if they'll finally buy any of my stuff here. Wow, this place looks like a hot mess. Okay. I eventually located the space station, but upon pulling in, to my great dismay, none of the vendors wanted any of my extra guns. My plans for actually being able to afford, well, anything was quickly falling apart. Unless, you know what, on a whim, we'll go to Darrell 3 and just see what awaits us there. Maybe there'll be something good. That looks like an ocean planet. This was indeed an ocean planet. The sound of waves and endless blue stretching in every direction was a nice change of scenery. I'll admit I had a few 45-46B flashbacks and got ready for a deep sea dive, but thankfully most of the points of interest were above water. Wow, this is beautiful. I had arrived in the island city of Oilig, and it was massive. The good news was coming out here on a whim did actually pay off, because after bringing all my orange weapons over to the vendor... Alright, will you buy any of these? Oh yeah, okay. 17,000 qubits in my pocket later, and I felt like a very rich man. I made a mental note of coming back here to establish a beach vacation base and took off back towards the space station. My trading level was high enough now where I could buy these superconductors and microprocessors, which we'll need for matter containers for the story mission. We'll hang on to the stuff that we have for now. I really want whatever this is. This looks friggin' awesome. 1,100,000. Okay, that's Now this was something worth grinding for, the Leviathan. With a price tag of 1.1 million qubits, it made my recent 17k payday look like pocket change. If I want to afford one of these bad boys, I'd need to find a way to make more money than just being a weapons dealer. Also, there was way more to the Durrell system that I'll come back to, but it was around this point that I decided to do some upgrading, starting with my refineries, which ended up being so efficient that I started tossing the extra common ingots into these recyclers, turning them into the energy capsules I needed for more warp cells. Nice. I made 11 of these bad boys. My purifier gun was still stuck at level 1, which wasn't ideal considering it's my main weapon against the red darkness. Upgrading it was a no-brainer, but the catch was that it needed glowing iron ingots, and glowing iron ore, not exactly easy to come by. Long story short, it turned to a side quest. I had to warp around and find a planet with glowing iron, shout out to Derwin 2, take out the darkness source protecting it, then dive into some ancient mines hoping to find the ore, which, by the way, had a pretty low drop rate. Wait, what's this? Glowing iron ore. Nice. Got some. And some of these things. Back at the temple on Bardwell 2, crafting the level 2 purifier was pretty straightforward, and I even took it for a quick little test drive with harvesting more dark dust. Okay, you guys got me. It was more like an entire day doing this. I know, something about just mindlessly grinding in this game definitely scratched a mental itch I didn't know I had. I've been at this for a while, but this is also very relaxing in a weird, busy work way. The good news is that by the next morning, I had probably too much dark dust, so I spam crafted a ton of light shards and warp cells, enough to last me the entire rest of the campaign. Around then, I remembered I still need to help Helioctis build that ancient weapon. I had plenty of superconductors from Durrell, but I had to check the console to see what else was on the list. Glowing gold ingot, glowing magnetite ingot, that's fine. Glowing diamond, that's fine. What the hell was that sound? Hey, buddy. Oh, I think they were just saying hi. Yeah, okay, so basically, I just need to see if I have 10 superconductors and 5 antimatter, 5 dark matter, and then I could probably do this pretty easily. So, there we go. Wait, there we go. I headed back to base and did an inventory count. While I was right in that I was actually pretty close to getting enough antimatter and dark cells, I was still missing a few things. Gem plate sapphire, no! Yeah, while those gems were not impossible to find, it would appear that I had completely run out. I read online that planets with just 2 mineral abundances meant they would have a lot of those 2 minerals, so I headed over to Grace 3 in my ship and parked at the first ancient mine I could find. Inside I found some cobalt and radium, but these weren't what I was looking for. I actually had to dig pretty deep beyond the mine to actually find pockets of gems. And to be fair, yes, I did end up finding all 4 types of gems down here. I may have also succumbed to my mining addiction again and stayed down here way beyond what was needed. Anyways, a full inventory, and a couple days later, I made a quick pit stop at Durrell again. I was looking for glowing gold, a rare ore that was on Helioctis' list. While I had visited the ocean planet of Durrell 3 earlier, it turned out that Durrell 2 actually had glowing gold on it. Alright, let's go to this city first, make a pit stop, cleanse the place, and start digging. Here we go. Alright, friendly? Nice. Dude, I can never tell. Hey, you know what? I can never tell when it's gonna be a disaster or not. The town didn't have too much going on, but I did some exploring and came across a red darkness mound, which I promptly purified with a light strike. After that, it was business as usual. I found Durrell 2's ancient weapon, punched in a few commands, and just like that, the planet was cleansed. I also did discover that the giant marble statue wasn't all for show. At the raised hand of the sculpture were 2 deposits for whatever glowing ore that planet has, so in the case of Durrell 2, I found the glowing gold I was looking for. Anyways, this all seemed like standard procedure, but I didn't know it yet. This planet was anything but standard. You see, I want to be sure I had more glowing gold ore for the mission, as well as some extra for crafting, and if it was anywhere, it had to be in these mining shafts. In reality though, the place was actually packed with lower tier ore. Useful, sure, but that was just the beginning. I'm not picking up this stuff. I can't. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, is that water? This is water. Oh, and jewels or whatever. This is a good planet. Oh my god. Oh my lord. Yep, this is a good planet. If you thought my loot goblin tendencies were bad before, this planet just about triggered a full-blown mining addiction for me. Seriously, I don't know if there were many or any other planets as densely packed with gems like Darrell 2. Before, I had to search quite a while to harvest up maybe 1 or 2 gem deposits at a time, but now there were just grids upon grids of sapphire, ruby, diamonds, and emeralds down here. It wasn't just at the surface either. In fact, as I went deeper into the mountains, I used my ore scanner and saw that I was basically surrounded in gem deposits. And it wasn't just that area either. In fact, as I got into my ship and flew around, I saw that while that valley had more gems that I could harvest, right behind it, another valley just like it. And beyond that, more valleys. Oh my lord, look, it keeps going. It keeps going, there's more back here. By the next morning, I got a better look and yeah, the entire planet was like this. My money problems were basically over. That 1 million cubit Leviathan, suddenly a lot more realistic. I spent an embarrassingly long time in the gem mines, getting lost in the mountains, filling my inventory, and resurfacing a few hours later with no idea where the time went. The lovely gem spiders did like to keep me company, however, and while they usually weren't an issue... Oh my god, we've become one! We've become one! I probably could have optimized my inventory better, but I very easily mined up a little over 1,500 gems, hundreds of each type. I was able to convert those into gem plates on my ship, some I saved for crafting, but most of them had planned to sell off. I also dropped a planet portal nearby to easily warp back to my Bardwell 2 base for some drop-offs, and set up a standard travel portal to quickly hop into the city for vendor access. Sadly, I was only able to offload 17 gem plates at a time, which made selling a little slow. Can I sell more? Sadly, my supply wasn't the issue. The real bottleneck was vendors not willing to buy more. What I ended up doing was using the planet portal to warp to other vendors on other planets to sell off more gem plates and gems alike. To these vendors, I must have been the Gem King, the ultimate supplier of all things shiny and gemmy. I ended up doing a few rotations like this and even sold off more at the Darrell space station, and pretty quickly my qubit count jumped up to a little over 200,000. I ended up spending more time down in the mines. At this point, it had become a bit of a problem. Seriously, it was just way too addicting, and I had half the mind to just do this instead of trying to save the galaxy. Well, no, I need to find the glowing manatite and a glowing diamond, so let's peel ourselves away from this. Peel ourselves away. I know. We'll come back. I know. Darrell 2 had treated me very well, and I made a mental note to come back here later. I found the glowing gold I needed, along with a practically endless supply of gems. Still, Helioctus's mobile ancient weapon needed 2 remaining ingredients: glowing magnetite and glowing diamond. I wasn't sure where to find them, so I just started blindly warping between systems, just hoping I'd stumble across the right materials. I'll be honest though, doing it this way wasn't exactly efficient. But in my travels, I stumbled across BegW3, and besides looking like the evil version of the ocean planet of Darrell 3, it did have... Oh my god, what's living under there? Whales. And instead of a friendly, bustling city, there was this pretty vicious pirate island base. Now, to you guys watching this, it may have seemed like a waste of time clearing out this outpost, but it was a good thing I did, considering for whatever reason, these pirates dropped some really high-tiered weaponry. You can tell because they're sparkly. Looting here trivialized ever needing to craft my own gear ever again. What really stood out was the Dragon Rush jetpack, which, if we're going by stats, looked to be the best jetpack in the game. I ended up clearing out the pirate outpost, converting it into another one of my happy towns, and if you're curious, this is what my inventory looked by the end of it all. By the way, when I made it back to the space station, it turned out that the game wouldn't let me sell these extra fancy weapons to vendors, which felt like a pretty big waste. Or was it? As I looked closer, I realized a lot of these fancy guns came with pretty nice mods. I stripped the guns I didn't want for their mods and ended up just putting all the best mods on the few guns I would actually use. Oh, and the glowing magnetite? Well, a couple warp noodles later. Glowing magnetite! Yes! At last, Grabble 1 had the glowing magnetite that I needed. I headed into the planet and it actually looked pretty good. No red darkness infestations, a pleasant view, even a temple with all the power towers pointed at it correctly. But there was just one small thing I missed. What was that? I just fixed it. Whoa, enemy fortress made of marble? Yeah, this planet was covered in pirate bases. Except these weren't just a typical outpost, but rather swanky towers filled with pirates who didn't seem particularly happy to see me. I ended up clearing this one out, at which point it became slightly bluer? Does it become my tower now? In either case, I grabbed the loot, activated the nearby temple, and flew straight to the red darkness source to nuke it with a light strike. I then made a beeline for the ancient weapon, purified the planet, then claimed my rewards of the 2 glowing ores on top of this marble statue. A much quicker process than just blindly trying to come across it through mining. Last on the list was glowing diamond. I wasn't sure what it looked. It was a bit concerning because I hadn't even come across systems with glowing gems to begin with, and it would seem that a long expedition around the galaxy was in order. Or so I thought. Upon closer examination, ah, they label it. Oh my god. It was there this whole time. Wow. I'm an idiot. I was over here just kind of guessing. Dude, I don't know. Sometimes this game just does not tell you anything. Okay, I don't know why I said that last part since the game was literally telling me where to go find the materials, but I will say I'm kind of mind blown. I just never noticed those markers. I warped the system Wapam, which had the glowing diamond I needed. Wapam 2. What a crazy name. I found myself on Wapam 2, and judging by the cracked terrain and dried seabeds, it was clear this used to be an ocean planet, one that had long since dried out. The red darkness had taken root here, so I spent the day light striking this red darkness spreader, then made my way to the ancient weapon to purify the planet. Right there, yep, oh yeah. The glowing diamond was secured. I warped back to Bardwell 2 and headed over to Helioctus's place. I'm not sure if he was thrilled about the long wait, but by now I had everything we needed. I initiated the construction process and at long last, it was done. Oh, that looks cool. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a ship like this, honestly. Can I just hop in it? Can I pilot it? No, it's not letting me interact. Wow, this is cool. Yep. Definitely an upgrade for whatever I'm driving. The Guardians seemed pleased with getting the mobile ancient weapon online, but had another favor. Apparently another knight had gotten themselves into some trouble, and I was tasked with the rescue mission. Just like that, I was back on my ship, taking off once again. And we're off. The trip to the Fintan system was pretty straightforward, just a couple of warps and I was there. Eventually I popped out of the green warp noodle and... okay, I'm assuming, yep, Fintan 1. That's where we gotta go. Rescue Knight, Cascatum. Cascatum, okay. Now the special thing about Fintan 1 was that it had not 1, not 2, but a whopping 3 darkness sources shielding the planet. A few dogfights with local pirates, and 3 Phoenix missiles later... my shield's disabled. Yes. Okay. Most of the planets I'd visited had varying levels of red darkness. Some heavy, some barely noticeable, but Fintan 1? Yeah, this place was absolutely overrun. And the enemies here, definitely a little bit more dangerous than the ones I faced before. Oh. There's many. I ended up clearing out more of the red darkness spiders on this planet, but there was one in particular that was special here. I've read online about people finding ones that would just keep spawning enemies, like non-stop. Now, why would this be a good thing, you may ask? Well, the loot they dropped here were rare crafting materials, like X matter, antimatter, dark matter, and so on. And to a loot goblin like me, endless ways of enemies to farm meant an endless supply of these materials. Yep, look. Yep. Oh. Yep. Oh, this infinite spawn. Now I kind of don't want to like purify this. This is a great source of matter, like X matter, dark matter, gamma. I had once again hit the jackpot, and I stayed probably longer than I'd like to admit. I will say though that it wasn't nearly as infinite as I had initially thought. Nevertheless, I was left with tons and tons of matter material, which honestly, looking at it, looked a lot like pieces of candy littering the ground. Definitely start dropping this stuff that I don't need. So much dark dust too. Oh, this is a great way to farm dark dust. I had purged the main red darkness spots on the planet, but Fintan 1's infestation definitely wasn't improving. As I flew over the planet trying to light strike more hotspots, it just looked like nightmare fuel to me. There didn't even seem to be anything living here. Well, that is unless you count these buffed up, corrupted pirates. Oh, he's tanky. Or whatever these things were. What is that? To be honest, clearing out everything did yield a ton of loot, but eventually I realized I probably did need to purge every single red darkness mound that I came across. In fact, the real issue was the light temple. The power towers were all misaligned, not to mention a couple were just straight up broken and needed repairs. To make matters worse, I didn't actually have the necessary components on me to be able to do the fix. Unless... hey, it's okay. I'm not mad. I'm not mad because we have advanced tricks now, extremely advanced strategies. I worked back and forth a few times, and eventually the power towers were repaired. After some realigning of all four sources, the temple was finally powered up, and I was able to activate it by using this ancient key. Light temple activated. The next step was a much needed visit to the ancient weapon, so after a quick key press and a short wait, the planet was purified. Wow, this is a nice planet. Okay, as big of a difference cleansing this planet made, there were still a bunch of areas where the red darkness persisted. I remember the Guardian mentioning that another knight had sent out a distress signal. After tracking it down, I stumbled across a corrupted pirate outpost. But from the explosions I heard, something was off, and I was about to find out why. What the heck is going on in there? Is he soloing them? Dude, what a G. Hey, buddy. Don't worry, I'm coming to save you. This was Kasaskatum, and from the looks of it, she was handling things just fine. Kaz was down here on a research mission, trying to figure out how to disable the red darkness shields without needing to destroy the emitters themselves. I invited her to my little night party at Bardwell 2, to which she happily accepted. I would love to stay, but let's go to Bardwell 2 and meet up with the lady. Back at Bardwell 2, I headed over to the Knight's base. Kaz and Helio had joined forces, and I was, well, as the third wheel, relegated to field work. Kaz wanted to realize her dreams of a shield breaker ship, and of course, yet again, I had to go out and collect a bunch of materials. I don't want to build that, guys. I think we're good. Let's just do what we've been normally doing. I actually didn't mind manually blasting the darkness emitters from space, but I was outvoted 2-1 on the shield breaker project. Anyways, Kaz's grocery list had to wait because at my base, a bigger problem presented itself. We just have way too much stuff. Yeah, I think new plan. I think we need to make I think it's time to make a new base. I had amassed quite the treasure trove of loot from all my travels. Sure, while I definitely could have just expanded the base to fit more chests, I felt as the galaxy's savior that I had grown out of living in a cave. Now was the time to do a complete redo and create that giga space loot mansion castle I had always dreamed of. You see, I had to claim my rightful place as the Gem King on the planet Durell 2. I scoped out the tallest mountain peak that I could find, but a problem quickly presented itself. Building materials. Up to this point, my base building strategy was simple. Dig a hole in a mountain and call it home. But if I wanted to build something actually nice that wasn't out of raw stone and dirt, gathering enough materials manually was going to be a pain. For the first time, I genuinely appreciated whoever took the time to refine all that marble for my statue. But then I thought, what if? This is probably fine. Okay guys, the statue was technically mine, so I'm sure whoever funded its construction wouldn't mind me using it for a personal project. I filled my inventory and my ship's inventory with marble and headed back to the peak. I laid down the first set of blocks for the base of the base. I had big dreams for how expansive my palace would be, but I wouldn't call myself an expert base builder. I will admit though, I am a little OCD, so yeah, I spent a while measuring out the dimensions, making sure everything was perfectly centered and symmetrical. I put down a planet portal to quickly jump to Bardwell 2. There I started the slow and painful process of loading up everything into my inventory to transfer it to the new base. On Durell 2, the marble harvesting initiative was going well, and I even came up with a new, possibly faster way of extracting marble that involved explosives. By that same night, I had created some walls and even this little landing pad area that, against my better judgment, I figured could be a mini tree garden. I also made some turret spires as a auto defense system and installed a double wall for extra protection from pirates. Wow, this thing looks formidable. Okay, I did end up scrapping the double wall entirely because it sort of got annoying to navigate around in practice. I started the process of adding a curved glass dome roof to my base later that night until I noticed something. What the heck is all this? Oh, that's my forest. The trees grow funky here. I did not know these would be trees. Huh. This is actually kind of cozy. This is actually amazing. What? I've made some support beams with a few light fixtures so I could actually see what I was doing when the sun went down. I also put down an observation tower in the middle of the base just as a way to get an even better view. I quickly realized just making it an observatory would be a waste, so I converted it to my private captain's quarters, complete with some cozy lighting, TV, desks, a gaming setup, and of course, my first bed. I went to sleep for the first time. By now, the glass dome was completed, and I added even more turrets to prevent meteors from leveling something I had just spent days making. I cleared out what was left of my old base on Bardwell 2, and by now, the Intergalactic Gem King Incorporated HQ was complete. In case if you guys wanted to see how it all turned out, this is like the rooftop landing area, but officially, I was trying to have it so you land in the garden first. You can see I kind of planted all pretty, but it definitely grew a lot more than I thought. But whatever, like I'll have wood. Sounds weird. Front door. This is the base. Quite the upgrade from the mountain base, I would say, but I probably could have built a quarter of the size and still have too much space. I don't know, at some point maybe I'll put a pool in here or something, I don't know. Here's an emergency entrance or exit, depending how you look at it. And this is a kind of a rooftop access. Then this is sort of the observation, kind of like homey area. Yeah, home away from home. As I looked at my new shiny base with pride, I remember Kaz's mission, the Shield Breaker. I hope they didn't need it anytime soon, but if it helped, I now knew the systems with the quest materials were actually marked. First on the list, Glowing Ruby, which could be found at El Montes 5. It was standard procedure: find the darkness spreader, nuke the darkness spreader, find the ancient weapon, activate the weapon, and finally, harvest the 2 guaranteed deposits at the top of the marble statue. Next, glowing uranium, which I quickly found in the Italo system, specifically on the planet Italo 5. This was another desert planet with its own red darkness infestation, which wasn't a problem since I had plenty of light shards by now. One light strike later, and I headed over to the ancient weapon. After the planet was cleansed, I claimed my reward and scooped up the celebratory glowing uranium deposits. Glowing titanium, that's the last thing we need. At this point, I was pretty much blitzing through these. Last on the list was glowing titanium, and given the highlight on my map, I assumed it was located in the Rita system. A few warp noodles later, and I was there. I'm a total sucker for ocean planets, and Rita 2 was no exception. Except, this one had a couple of curveballs. There is no darkness here. Well, that's nice. Something's in the water. Oh! Why would it do that? Oh my gosh. While getting instantly shot at thanks to a pirate base that just loaded in late wasn't a good time, I did eventually collect myself enough to go back and clear it out. Please become a happy town. Yes, civilization! There was good news and bad news about Rita 2. The good news, there was no sign of red darkness anywhere on the planet. The bad news, there was no sign of red darkness anywhere on the planet, which meant my usual strategy, cleansing the planet and grabbing the guaranteed glowing ore from the statue, wasn't going to work this time. Yeah, I ended up spending quite a while digging through the various mountain islands for glowing titanium. I used QB to scan for it, but honestly, it took multiple trips around the planet. Without ancient mines or the statue, finding glowing ore was ridiculously rare. Okay, I found where it was all hiding. Oh, here it is. Yep. Okay. With the glowing titanium in my backpack, I headed back to Jarrell 2, home sweet home. At base, I did some housekeeping chores and smelted the glowing ores into their respective glowing ingots, which just left 2 missing ingredients, some X matter and Higgs boson cells. Funny enough, just from that massive red darkness farm we did earlier on Fintan 1, I already had more than enough Higgs boson cells just collecting dust and storage. The only problem? I was 1 X matter cell short. Fortunately, being the Gem King has its perks, mainly a girthy wallet. So I made a quick trip to the space station and just picked some up. I could buy a bunch of this stuff. A portal teleport later and I was back on Bardwell 2. I brought along the needed materials, and after a few key punches into the crafter console, the shield breaker was finally online. These look amazing. I feel like for all the effort and time, I should get one. Yeah, while I was content with my current ship, after seeing what the 2 knights had cooked up, it was clear that I was in dire need of an upgrade. For the time being though, I powered up the shield breaker with a light shard and headed over to see the Guardian, who said that I was now ready to rescue our home system of Cuberion. Luckily, Cuberion wasn't too far away. There was a system that I had already been to, called Sada, that was only 1 warp jump away from Cuberion, so after a quick warp, system Cuberion charted. Oh yeah, this is all very infected. Liberate the Cuberion space station portal. What could possibly be wrong with the space station portal? There was a lot going on at the space station portal. Are we being shot at? Oh, they are being shot at. I didn't think it was possible, but the red darkness had put one of those planet shields around the space station. Ramming it open was not an option, so I had to take out a small squadron of pirates that were attacking the station. My piloting skills were pretty decent by this point, and after a few dogfights, I cleared them out. The last remaining thing was cracking open that shield. You know what? Maybe this is where I call in my thing. Oh, okay, that was it. Okay. Whoa, what is that? Planet Bane. How much is it? Pretty cheap for Planet Bane. Despite being the Gem King, I was about 200,000 qubits short of being able to afford the Planet Bane. However, to be able to get both this and the Leviathan, I knew I had a long way to go. In the meantime, I met up with Asenka, one of the royal guards, who explained to me that access to our home planet of Cuberion 1 was blocked by the other planets in the system. My first stop, Cuberion 2, and from the looks of it, things were pretty bad. Oh, this looks pretty bad. Checking out the map, there were red darkness hotspots everywhere, and I was really starting to wonder if I had brought enough light shards to cleanse the system. Either way, as the glorified galactic exterminator that I am, I got started with light nuking this red darkness dome, and like flipping over a log, I came across something wriggling underneath. Oh, that thing is not dying. Aha. It was becoming more and more obvious that I'm going to need a bigger gun. In fact, as I was clearing out more of the red darkness spreaders, I actually had to rely on my ship's cannons. Still, the fight wasn't over after that one. I spent the rest of the day slowly going around Cuberion 2 and light striking the main red darkness spreaders. I've not seen one of these in a while. After clearing out not one, but two of these giant spiders, I eventually made my way over to the ancient weapon here and cleansed the planet. There were still a couple of red darkness hotspots left, but purging them wasn't really required, and well, by now I was running low on light shards. I need to go back and make a bunch more light shards, but I think it's time for an upgrade anyways. Just to do the full upgrade, just to be sure that I'm ready to take on whatever comes at me. I was speaking, of course, about finally coming around and upgrading to a bigger and better ship. The Leviathan and Planet Bane were both on the top of my list. Rather than straight up buying them from the space station, I was determined to finally set aside some time to go looking for some fixer-uppers out in the galaxy. Like before, I started out by checking every signal I came across in various systems. What is this? It is a micro. Oh, scammed. At least we're finding more ships. Wait. What is this? I have this. It's the exact same ship as what I have now. Okay. Not gonna lie, guys, this process took me a lot longer than I thought it would. Warping between multiple systems, it was as if Lady Luck herself was really insistent that I was in the market for yet another micro. Sure, while some of the other ships I found did look interesting, it just wasn't exactly what I had in mind. I had my heart set on Planet Banes and Leviathans. However, just as I thought maybe spending 500,000 qubits no longer sounded so bad, wait. We found it. Planet Bane. Repair. Yes! Oh my god. Dude, that only took forever. Can I embark? Oh, man. This is a ship, dude. Wow. The inside of the Planet Bane was quite luxurious, easily big enough to double as a mobile base. I started moving the chests and crafting bench over from the old ship to the new one. However, despite getting the Bane, deep down, I gotta be honest, I still really wanted the Leviathan. A 1 million qubit hunk of overkill glorious flamboyancy was out there somewhere in the galaxy, so after spending quite a while searching many systems and doing a couple of warps, finally. Ah, thank goodness. All right, let's repair you. Let's see the inside. Oh man, this is a spaceship. Terrible window. Yep. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all this space. She's marvelous. Thank God we finally got it. Now we can save the princess in style. I spent some time getting cozy in the Leviathan, moving in my chest and organizing everything. Now, don't get me wrong, the Planet Bane was a mighty fine ship. From a technical standpoint, it even had more slots for deployables. But the Leviathan, it was peak form over function. It felt like I was piloting an auditorium. A bit cumbersome, wildly impractical, but I loved every cubic cube of it. The other thing I want to upgrade were my weapons, which had held up pretty decently up to this point, but were starting to show their age. If I was to rescue the queen, I'll need the best of the best. At the temple, there were these regalia weapons, powerful ancient variations of guns I've come across. I picked out the Ravager regalia as the one I'd like to craft, given that it actually was just a juiced up version of a gun I already had. The only issue? Starloom. Where to find Starloom? Starloom was actually something I've never even seen or heard of, and for a second I thought I was in for another galaxy-wide scavenger hunt. But then I vaguely remembered vendors in the Durrell system carried high-grade weapons that may be worth double-checking. Smuggler? Does Smuggler have it? Ravager regalia. Oh, this is the exact one I wanted. How much is this? 13,000 cubits later, and the regalia was mine. Honestly, I was half wondering why it was on bargain bin sale prices, especially with how powerful it was, but I wasn't about to ask any questions. Next up, back to freeing the Cuberion system. The queen had certainly waited long enough, and with my fancy new Leviathan and regalia weapon, I felt ready to take on just about any and everything. Cuberion 3 looked as miserable from space as it did on the surface. No, like really, upon landing I actually had to purify a little square, so I had somewhere to stand on while trying to cleanse the planet. The good news? Well, my Ravager regalia was quite the upgrade, hitting a little over 500 damage on enemies and double that on corrupted ones. 1,000 damage. I ended up light striking this first red darkness spreader, and honestly, the amount of rare materials I was getting was starting to get nonsensical. Wow, there's a lot of stuff. Good lord. As much as I'd like just to have the rest of the video be of those satisfying popping sounds, there was still much work to be done. You see, Cuberion 3 had plenty more red darkness hotspots I had to purify, like more of those giant spiders. What damage I do? Oh my lord. Why there's so many of these things? I cleaned up the remaining spots, and 2 light strikes later, I headed over to the good old ancient weapon to officially cleanse the planet. Now, I couldn't stay to celebrate, however, so I headed over to the last and final shielding planet, Cuberion 4. The funny thing about these planets is that each one somehow got progressively worse than the last. Okay. Freaking jump scare. Oh, this place. It's just bad. Everything about this place just looks bad. Let's just get this place over with. Call in light strike, and okay. And then do these things. Okay. Nope, don't mind me. Maybe it was because of the stormy weather, but the corrupted creatures here were pretty grumpy, so I knew I had to hurry with purifying the planet. Between the carpet of red darkness that consumed everything, thunder jump scares, and the hyper-aggressive enemies, I was essentially speedrunning through Cuberion 4, quickly light nuking all of the points as fast as I could, before eventually make my way over to the ancient weapon. There we go. Land on planet Cuberion 1. Finally. Surely the Queen's Royal Guard, would have held things down, right? Like, while I was gone. Like, couldn't be that bad. I mean, this is like, Cuberion 1 is like the capital. That's like home base. Yep. Just in time. Oh, jeez. Oh, lordy. Yeah, that doesn't look good. If the whirling red tornadoes didn't give it away, the red darkness was throwing quite the party here on Cuberion 1. I went down to get a closer look at the city, noticing that it was covered in a, you guessed it, red darkness shield. The first mission here, reigniting the light towers. This looks like the world's tallest Jenga tower. I don't think I've seen a light temple like that before. I floated over to this tower, plugged in a light shard, and that was about all it took to get things running again. Well, not really. I actually had more light towers to visit, like this one, arguably the biggest red darkness pimple I've seen yet. Even after I nuked it with a light strike, it didn't actually completely destroy the dome, only cutting out a perfect square opening at the top, so I hopped in. Inside was another super tall light tower, which I promptly fixed up as well. By the way, not all of the light towers were towers though. Take for instance this one. It was actually located inside an infected pirate outpost. Despite my shiny new regalia, the pirates proved to be quite deadly. There's a lot of bad guys here. Wow, okay. There's a lot of bad guys. Eventually, I did make it back and purify this little path for myself to activate this light tower. Funny enough, the next light tower was actually 10 feet under the ground, and while this normally wouldn't be a problem, every cube was corrupted. Where's this thing? Even lower, okay. After a bit of digging, I did wind up activating that one as well, and I headed back to the capital. The red darkness shield was weakened by now, so I put down a light strike, and a short wait later, ta-da! This city was completely abandoned, and I made my way towards the Queen's castle. After climbing these stairs, that does not sound good. Oh, is that the... Hey, give me 1 second. Okay, I was a bit blown away by this point at how many darkness shields there were now. A bit like a Russian doll, there was a shield around the planet, a shield around the city, and a shield around Queen Atia herself. I realized to free the queen, I need to collect 4 ancient dark keys. Coincidentally, I had a dark key already on my ship, and a quick teleport back to my base, I realized I had another one collecting dust in one of my chests. I still needed 2 more, but luckily the red darkness likes to keep its keys very close by. I followed the marker to this area on the side of a hill. Not worried about that, not worried about that. Oh shoot, I think I just picked one up. Look, my counter went up to 3. I still needed 1 more key, so I visited this corrupted city inside this darkness mound. After battling the corrupted locals and searching frantically through the loot... Wait. Got it. Yep. Okay. I found a darkness key. With the last ancient dark key secured, I ran back to the castle and unshackled the queen from her cuboid prison. There we go. Oh. The queen gave me some kind words, her eternal gratitude, and you got that right, more work. We need to bring back all the ancient temples and cleanse the galaxy. Restore the protective network. Okay, yeah. Okay. What does that mean? Do I have to deactivate all other temples in the entire galaxy? What? Oh my god. Oh my god. Yep, remember those light temples I was activating? Well, I definitely didn't activate all of them. In fact, for the most part, I did the bare minimum up to this point. Looking at the map, judging by the temple icons, I had well over 20 of these left in the galaxy to find and activate. I'll start to feel like the galaxy's most productive corporate employee. The reward for doing great work? More work. I'm not going to go through every temple I had to visit, but let's just say it took me a while. Some planets I had already been to, and getting a temple up and running wasn't a huge issue. Other planets were in systems I hadn't explored yet and took a few warps. Quite a few planets were shielded by red darkness, and I got in a number of dogfights with pirates, though it wasn't a problem for my lightly used Leviathan. And some temples weren't exactly straightforward either, like having the power towers that need to be dug out of mountains. I will say though, the planets I visited were all amazing. Some were desert planets with sand stretching well beyond the horizon, others were ocean planets filled with coral reefs. Some planets had beautiful lush greenery, and others rainy, dark, and covered in a bit too much red darkness for my liking. To be very honest with you guys, this process took way longer than I would have thought. After countless warps, battling tons of pirates, and traveling across all sorts of systems and planets, eventually I got down to activating the very last light temple. Hooray. We did it! We did it! Wait. That's it? That was it. I know I said earlier the reward for finishing work is extra work, but once that extra work is finished, there was an odd silence about it all. The Guardian gave me a few words of encouragement and told me to be on the lookout for more red darkness, which seemed like the end, but then I noticed something. He specifically mentioned destroying the source of the red darkness, and then I remembered. Back on Bardwell 1, there was an ancient portal that opened and a bunch of red darkness creatures spilled out. And once we actually went through that portal, a nightmarish realm of red tornadoes and corruption beams. Yeah, that place. I went back to Bardwell 1 to see if that ancient portal was active again, but to no avail. Portal is powered down. Huh. How do I turn it back on? Long story short, the planet that the red darkness came from, it was called Nixis, a hidden planet that I hadn't come across during my travels across the galaxy. Well, until now. You see, just from a bit of internet digging, getting to the secret planet required finding other open ancient portals that led to it, much like the original one on Bardwell 1. Other players had tried mapping out which select few planets actually had such a portal. Which brings me to Mater 1. This was another desert planet filled with pirate outposts, steep mountain peaks, and the occasional cactus forest. While I had read that there was an ancient portal here, I didn't know exactly where to look, but after some careful scouring of the surface... Wait a second, is this it? Hold on, this is it. Oh my gosh. Well, here goes nothing. Oh Jesus. This place looks terrible. This is Nixis. After all this time, I had returned, and, well, I take back whatever I said about Cuberion having the worst case of red darkness infections. This place looked horrific. There were red tornadoes everywhere, not a city, friendly nor pirate in sight, and just an endless sea of red darkness all around. And while light striking the planet's surface did seem to clear out some of the red darkness, it honestly didn't look like it made much of a difference. This seems like an awful place to set up base. As I flew around, I could see other ancient portals leading to other planets, much like the one I took just to get here. I landed on one of the platforms and took out some of these beam emitters that were suppressing this portal. Invincible. Okay, where's this? Dougal 1. Okay. Not gonna lie guys, this place is terrifying. I explored more of the portals and cleared them out. Each portal took me to random corners of the galaxy, to planets I've never even been to. The creatures here were also extremely tanky. Even my regalia weapon was having a hard time keeping up. Life here seemed impossibly inhospitable. Everything out here was really trying to kill me. So I, as the Gem King, did the only thing that made sense: set up shop. If the planet was going to be this hostile, I might as well corner the market on sapphires, diamonds, rubies, and emeralds before my competitors got here. Like the Gigabase on Darrell, this one would also be completely made out of marble. I had to put down the basics: a crafting table, my own planet portal, and I put everything around the ancient portal itself. I went for a tower type build, going up pretty high up so I wouldn't miss out on those sweet $1 million apocalyptic views. I set up a defensive wall around the perimeter made up of ancient blocks to help keep out the constant spread of red darkness. To top it all off, pun intended, I put down a nice little hot tub area just so I could relax and enjoy the scenery. And with that, Gem Tower had been completed, and that brings it all back to the beginning of our story, relaxing in my little sky pool. Sure, I hadn't actually gotten any customers yet, but honestly, I'm still pretty proud of everything I pulled off in this adventure. While the Guardian's busy figuring out what to do with Nixis, I'm already out here thinking about my next move. Perhaps, instead of exploring the galaxy, maybe I could do the reverse and go smaller.